Xin chào quý vị đến chương trình Non-Profit Podcast. Mời quý vị đến với chúng tôi để nghe dịch vụ của My Sister's House.
歡迎嚟我哋嘅對話。Going through the legal, trying to get a restraining order so that to keep her safe. She still live in fear that, the kids are going to go to the husband, just a gambler and, abuse her.
I mean, she shares something that's so nuanced to our community. So in our culture, we bathe in a particular way. So we don't have shower heads. So we bathe out of a bucket. When she was at the hotel, she was like, I don't think I can shower here. My kids are going to suffocate. I can't imagine someone who doesn't understand how like a villager live in Vietnam would be able to equate to what she was trying to say.
Right.
And she didn't have to say too much. I knew it.
Hi, I'm Jeff Holden. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each weekly episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Our goal is to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. Thanks to our founding partners for their foresight in helping us transform the way conversations start. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. For the month of May, I've chosen to do something a bit differently with our episodes. We all know the significance of mothers and children. With Mother's Day in May, I've chosen to use the full month to highlight organizations supporting moms and their children in our community. If you like this thematic approach, feel free to let me know through the link on the website. Enjoy the episode. As we close the month of May with our final organization serving women and children, it's unique in several ways. We know the challenges in general facing women who find themselves in situations of homelessness, abuse, domestic violence, trafficking. There are no boundaries on who's impacted. However, it can be exaggerated when you add in extreme cultural norms, huge language barriers, and economic distress. That's often the case when you address the situation facing Southeast Asian women. The good news is there is an organization that caters to these women and their children specifically, and they have been supporting the community for over 24 years. I'm especially honored to have the privilege of speaking with the outgoing CEO, Nguyen Marshall, and welcoming to her first podcast as CEO of My Sister's House, Christine Nguyen. Nguyen Marshall, Christine Nguyen, welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Good to be here.
The very first part of our conversation, I think, is breaking news to some degree because we've got something to share with the community. And there's a bit of change taking place at My Sister's House that's effective June 1, correct?
That is correct.
And Nguyen, what is it that is changing?
Well, I'm excited to announce that effective June 1st, Christine will assume the role of CEO for My Sister's House. This change will allow me to take a short vacation before I return to serve on the board of directors. For those who may not be aware, Christine and I have been sharing the executive responsibilities for the organization since last August.
Oh my goodness, almost a year.
Yes, with me serving as the CEO and Christine serving as the COO. Prior to that, I stepped down from the board for about a year during the transitional period as a pro bono interim executive director for the organization during the leadership change.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us a while to find the right leader for the organization. So thrilled to share that we have finally found her. and that's Christine Nguyen.
Who happened to be right underneath your nose all the time, right?
Yes.
So, Christine, how long have you been with the organization now?
I've been with the organization since August of last year.
Okay. Congratulations and welcome to your first interview, short of the excitement of the event last night. And we're recording this episode on the 20th of May. Your big event was on the 19th, where you announced Christine as the new CEO.
Thank you. I'm still reeling in the comment that Nguyen just made, and I'm trying not to get too emotional about the announcement because I'm just really happy about it. Even though I know there's going to be lots of work ahead, I'm just really happy that I found a place that I can really invest my day in making sure that I'm working towards a wonderful mission and supporting the staff.
Well, I bet Yen is really happy too.
Yes, I know she is because she's going on vacation.
That's right. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode.
Yes.
My sister's house has become well known for the services you provide in the Asian community. And while you're not exclusive to that community, it is the bulk of where your service and community are derived from. Many people don't realize the cultural differences that present and why your organization is so very significant. And I'd like you to share a little bit of that with us, if you could. Southeastern Asian ethnicities, Hmong, Chinese, Filipino, Muslim, there's novelty in each of those cultures. And if you could share a little bit of that, why it makes you so unique in the ability to work with those cultures.
It's not a one-size-fits-all when you're dealing with social service. I think when you're dealing with clients from disenfranchised communities, again, you really have to meet the clients where they are. And in working with survivors who come from so different communities, meeting them wherever they are is really key to their journey of recovery. It probably took their lives, close to dying before they made the call to seek help. So having staff and leadership at the organization that understand where they are culturally will help that survivor communicate their situation, their struggles and their needs, and even having similar language needs and culture. We also still struggle with the clients because they all come to us with such unique circumstance. So that sets our agency and our volunteers apart from other domestic violence providers because we know to kind of stop and make sure that we're sensitive to why they're in the situation that they're in, where they're heading, and in between the recovery, how to best serve them through language support system, through perhaps programming needs, through language, through culture response sensitivity as well. Whether we are able to engage them or not has a lot to do with how we connect to them on that basic level, which is knowing where they come from.
How old is the agency now?
24 years.
So over those 24 years, you've built an understanding within your volunteer base of what these cultural nuances are, because each one is so different. And you need somebody who speaks the language, so you certainly have to be the most diverse of any of the organizations servicing domestic violence and substance abuse, things of that nature in this community. I mean, from Chinese to Hmong to Filipino, they're all different languages.
That's why we are very proud of the fact that I think most, our staff, we can speak up to, I think currently about 15 different Asian languages, because we know language is always a big barrier for immigrants, and most of our survivors are immigrants. So having that background, and that is it's an advantage for us, so that, like Christine said, how we meet the clients where they are, that is a very useful resource for us to be able to serve, the clients that walk through the door in a unique way.
And understanding those cultural differences also on how to approach that client.
Absolutely.
And to ask the right questions so that you can elicit the right response, because I'm sure fear is extremely, extremely high just for exposing the situation, much less the personal trauma that it's inflicted on the individual.
Yeah, I'm bilingual. I speak Vietnamese, and Nguyen is trilingual. She speaks Cantonese and Vietnamese. And recently, about 2 weeks ago, we we did an assessment on a Vietnamese survivor. And I met her at the hotel, the emergency hospital transport system, drop her off at a partnering hotel. And so I met her the next morning. You should see the relief on her her face when I met her and I spoke Vietnamese. Oftentimes, many of my Vietnamese community don't know that I'm Vietnamese because they keep saying that I don't look Vietnamese, but they get very surprised when I speak to them in Vietnamese. And she was kind of shocked, and she was like, "Oh," and the relief that she felt, and she couldn't wait to tell me her story because our hotel or our shelter manager didn't speak Vietnamese; she spoke Hmong, and so. It was just already like, the connection was instant that, oh, you know what, I can trust this person. And she ended up telling me a whole lot more than the questions that we asked because I understood her. I understood her language.
And I would imagine probably a whole lot more than you really even wanted to know.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. It's absolutely. And I did end up having to kind of hone in a little bit. And I was like, when I hear, you don't have to really tell me everything because you are going to get served.
Mm-hmm.
We do not need anything from you. You will get served. You and your 2 children will be served. We are going to move you into shelter. And I think that was a big sigh of relief for her because she said, I didn't understand anything at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And she came back to the office a couple weeks later, and I was busy. I was in a meeting, but we had an interpreter there to help her. And I heard some of the conversation. And yes, she said, I don't even know what hospital I was at. I didn't understand anything. I just knew that I just knew that I called the police, and now I'm here at my sister's house. And ever since she's been at my sister's house, she's been able to communicate with somebody.
When people come to us, not every time we have shelter. For this particular client, she was very lucky that someone just moved out from our emergency shelter.
Mm-hmm.
So after 2 days in the hotel, she was transferred into one of the room that we have for the shelter. So, shelter is one of very premium things in this region because there are much more needs than the capacity that we can provide. So not just because of her situation, this is the first time that really received a client directly from the hospital. So the caseworker even talked to us how it's rare that she's able to continue monitor clients after they leave the hospital because normally you don't know where they end up, most of them being helped. Once they're safe and they are cleaned up from the wounds, it's hard for them to follow up with the clients because they don't have a house somewhere. So with this client being in our shelter, we collaboratively can work with her to provide, the best resources to the same client. And I think
proper medical care and any mental health.
Right now, she's going through the legal, trying to get a restraining order so that to keep her safe. And she still live in fear that, the kids are going to go to the husband because the husband doesn't know anything and just a gambler and, abuse her and just, So it's kind of nice to be able to help to have the right resources at the time when the clients need.
I mean, she shares something that's so nuanced to our community that I believe she would not share if she was intaked by an organization that didn't understand this culture. So in our culture, we bathe in a particular way. So we don't have shower heads. So we bathe out of a bucket. And so she was like, this. So when she was at the hotel, she was like, they bathe. And she's like, I don't think I can shower here. My kids are going to suffocate. And immediately I figured she was talking about the shower head because her kids never had shower water coming down from a shower head before. And so I took her to the bathroom and show her how to use one. And immediately I knew what she was talking about. And so I can't imagine someone who doesn't understand how like a villager living in Vietnam would be able to equate to what she was trying to say.
Right.
And she didn't have to say too much. I knew it.
Right.
And oftentimes, and I would probably presume that she probably wouldn't be talking about those things, and she would go without a shower until for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Yen, you mentioned a couple of things, the domestic violence, the abuse, gambling. Tell us a little bit about some of the issues you deal with most often. What is it that you see? Certainly spousal abuse.
What I have been hearing, financial abuse. A lot of our survivors are basically cut off. Like this particular victim, she had no access to money, and she was relying on CalFresh that was given to her husband to buy food. And since he was a gambler, he spent it all. He basically traded in,
For
cash at probably
Oh.
a portion of the value, so he can gamble. And she was not able to get any of her immigration paperwork, so she doesn't have a driver's license. So those are the kind of the recurring stories we hear. They would threaten immigration. They threaten deportation on our survivors. A lot of them also threaten children. If you're not a fit, I can call the police and say you're not a fit mother. They can take away your children. So, I think cutting them off, isolating them from family members. Last night we had a survivor speak at our gala, and when, everything in the beginning of the marriage was fine, she soon saw that she was being isolated from her family in Vietnam. She could make phone calls and having access to a telephone or a cell phone. I mean, that's
When
our
you have-
lifeline these days, and she wasn't allowed
A
to
very
have one.
passive-aggressive way to separate you
Take control.
and take control, correct?
Right. And especially for someone who doesn't work, that depends on the spouse to the money. The fear of if they go to court, the court is going to side with the husband because he's a financial provider, and she's going to end up being kicked out of the house and not have access to the kids if she moved forward with divorcing him because there's no way she could provide for the kids.
Tell us a little bit about the programs that you provide. We got the issues, and these issues are cross-culture. It's
correct.
not specific to Chinese or Hmong
Yes.
or Vietnamese or Filipino or even Muslim, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They might take different shapes and form, but it's very much the same.
Same
Yeah,
barriers.
yeah. So knowing that, we have built wraparound services to make sure that we are able to uplift the survivors in a holistic way and not just one thing, because I think they have been isolated from families, from perhaps even from their community, and sometimes from themselves. They come in pretty shattered, lost a lot of dreams and hopes, definitely there's no more confidence or self-esteem left, or their self-worth is shot, down to zero. So slowly rebuilding our survivor from the ground up. So we rebuild them through providing them, first and foremost, their basic needs, which is shelter. That's one way to extract them from the abusive environment, bring them to safety. They either get housed through hotel vouchers or through one of our shelter. Then once they're settled, we looked at counseling. So, you've gone through a lot. You're going to really need to work through this. And counseling for themselves, counseling for their children. And then depending on whether there are children involved, assets involved, definitely everybody, before our legal team delve into those issues, we look at whether or not we need to do a restraining order. And almost 100% of the time, our clients opt to do a restraining order. So we work on that, get them, making sure that there's legal protection for them. And then we look into divorce paperwork, child custody paperwork. From there, they could be receiving services all at one time. They could be meeting with an attorney one day, meeting with our counselor on Friday, And then when they're ready, they also can join support group, where we meet every Tuesday night, and and it's a virtual meeting, and they're meeting with other women who are going through similar situation. And our facilitators have different topics to talk about, and they also can lead the topics, what they want to talk about that day, and what helps them feel safe to talk about. So it's a good way for them to kind of know that there's support out there.
One of the things that are so prolific in these situations is the reintegration process. Now they're going to come back into the community, maybe the family, and the family's not happy about this, or it just depends on the situation. How do you work with getting them prepared for, maybe it's a job, maybe it's work? I know there's some things and programs in that full 360 of what you do that help.
Yeah. Well, in the past, we even provide assistance in learning how to drive. I mean, the very basic thing that, depending on what level they are in terms of reintegrating back into the workforce. And then we also, as you know, we have the enterprise, which is more like, with the cafe. And then we used to have the store, the treasure store as well.
Share a little bit about the cafe for people who don't know.
So the cafe itself is a place where we, in addition to a revenue generating for the organization, it's a training ground for our clients, especially for those who are interested in learning about the food industry. With this, the cafe itself, we have staff, we have volunteers, and then we have clients. So it's a mixture of 3 different sources. And so when someone walk in, they would not know who is the client or who is the staff. And so that's a good way, kind of a safety net for them. And it is at the cafe that our clients learn that they need to be respected in order to serve. It's not, people cannot be calling them names or putting them down or, courtesy involved in treating each other with respect. So that's the first thing that they learn. So I think that's really empower them. All of a sudden, just doing a little thing, they could see and feel that they're being appreciated. So that is a confidence builder, and that's really important for especially those that are still fresh from, being mentally abused or verbally abused, for a long time. It's really hard to get out of that mode, knowing that, hey, I am capable of doing things. I'm not, stupid the way that you've been calling me and things like that. So
I really do have value and I really can contribute.
Exactly. And you have value and you can contribute and you have capability of doing things. And then for them, it's really good to start earning money too. So, and then even the tip that provided at the cafe goes back to them, so they can see that with good services they gain extra money, and it's just one way to really think about how to generate revenue, and then what would bring more customers. The very basic skills of entrepreneurship.
We'll be back to learn more about the opportunities that are presented to clients of My Sister's House with Nguyen Marshall and Christine Nguyen right after we hear from our partners making this program possible. I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with CapTrust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
If your organization is looking for non-volunteer positions at any level, consider using our platform for your recruitment. Whether in podcast content or in the newsletter, the audience we're speaking to has your next teammate. Simply reach out to me through the website, nonprofitpod.com, for a customized solution to your open positions. Who are some of those organizations you see frequently that you work with?
Yeah, so since my start with my sister's house in August, I've been really quite involved with Family Justice Center.
Sure.
And I think I would say that we've done an operation together to try to help several women who were victims of sexual trafficking.
Oh, geez, okay.
Our agencies, they do trainings with us. We do trainings with them. And, next month, we're actually thinking about co-sharing office space with the Family Justice Center where, we lack space. They have spacing. So we have decided to put our resources together and help each other out. So our legal team will be eventually stationed over at the Family Justice Center to handle cases that need our culture and language responsiveness, to their needs. We collaborate with Weave. We do get referrals from Weave when we have a client who may need our culture experience and language accessibility. We do serve their clients as well. And there's an array. I mean, our therapists take on CPS cases as well. So the county, actually, we've been very busy with taking on some county cases. So there's quite a bit of collaboration there. And I know that Nguyen, prior to me coming on board, was working with a ton of other organizations that has, really been instrumental on basically uplifting the immigrant and refugee communities, such as ARI, who's actually stationed in the same building with you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. See, we work with them through the employment field, side. So they have accesses to a lot of agency and different career paths. So we work with them, intimately in order to place our clients where they can learn some skills, or there are certain opportunities that we are not aware of, but they do have access and more up-to-date information.
Mm-hmm.
So we work with them. And then, like Laos family, they have a lot of real estate. They have a lot of rooms. And so depending on, what we have in the inventory at the time, we might need to continue serving our clients on the legal services, but then physically they need to reside over at the Laos family. So we have to be creative because, all of the nonprofit organizations within Sacramento have to be creative in order to fully provide access to the clients that they serve.
Yeah, the challenge becomes sometimes cultural and language barriers, and you are the outlet.
Exactly.
I'm proud to say that, our organization and many like ourselves and nonprofit, I think collaboration is in our blood. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do this work alone. And sometimes, we have a client who may need a certain service that we don't provide. I'm really just starting to build my collaboration with the Health Education Council. So they do a lot of health issue. Starting maybe perhaps sending our clients there for health classes and yoga classes and those kind of things. So I think, every day is like, who can we call it upon to help us get this job done? And oftentimes sometimes it's a survivor who comes in and has a very specific need. And we can't serve them with that need through our own experience, our own expertise. So we're not shy to pick up the phone and say, hey,
help me.
Yes.
Yeah. And they don't have to be nonprofits either.
Exactly.
Sure.
Private organizations that have whether not space or certain resources that we don't have and they're willing to share, then we work with them.
Well, what I'm really pleased to hear is the three organizations you mentioned have all sat in these chairs, and they will say the same thing. The collaboration is prolific.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agencies that touch each other, and that's true. The collaboration is everything because you guys can't do it alone.
You can't do it alone. You don't have the funding, and with the challenges with the, a lot of budget issues currently, most of people encounter, it really collaboration is the key to other solutions that we might think of, Yeah,
and I think if we're perhaps maybe most leadership and nonprofits would agree that, when we do our day-to-day, sometimes we get very sidetracked by what we have to do at the moment. And so we may not be picking up the phone, calling our colleagues and saying, hey, let's collaborate. But I know that the community, this nonprofit in Sacramento, come together. And we kind of saw that at our gala last night. 300 people came, and they represent all sorts of organizations, nonprofit to private to elected officials, to retired people who just want to give back. And they were there, and everybody came up to me and says, call me. What can I do for you? Please make sure that you contact. If there's anything I can help you with, I'll do my best. If not, I will connect to someone or some organization. So I think that's what makes Sacramento a unique place, is that we're not shy to help each other and we're not shy to ask. And if we're not asking, it's not because we're shy. I think it's just because we're just probably trying to multitask and put out fires or perhaps doing the work ourselves because we're short on staffing. But in general, I think there's just a lot of support out there.
Yeah, you'd be surprised to know that even though we've been providing services for the last 24 years, that some people have not ever heard about
I am
my
not
sister's
surprised at
house.
all. It's amazing how many organizations we've got and how many things we do in the community that people just don't know.
Exactly.
And it's getting the word out as best we can.
Yeah, so thank you for having us today, obviously.
Well, that's part of it, certainly. And Christine, that's for anybody else that's listening that's a nonprofit agency not familiar with you. I take that as an invitation, what you were just saying, for the collaboration, for them to reach out to connect with you.
Yes, absolutely.
By all means.
And, and many of the people I saw at the gala are first-time people that I've met, and it's not about me, but it's really about they see beyond me. They see the organization, they see the clients and the staffing who stand behind me, and they're like, that's really who they're supporting when they're talking to me, that I want to support your organization and the mission that you do, because ultimately you're helping the community. So to me, I just feel like it's not really about a reflection of the leader, but it's about the mission and the people that stands behind.
Totally agreed. And I'm thrilled to hear that you had that many first-time people who have now been introduced to the organization.
Right, through events. And then we also run into people that we have been interacting with, say, over 10 years ago or 15, 20 years, because we have. So now some of those survivors become successful at whether or not they become an entrepreneur or an elected official or a local leader who are really set out to make changes. I mean, a few months ago at one of the table event, one of the women came to me and was saying that you guys helped me so much when my kids was little and I was homeless and you took me in. And now she is at the community college leading one of the programs over there. And she invited us to work with her so that, we can refer our clients over to her for the specific topic that, she's teaching over there. Wonderful. It's come full circle.
Those are the success stories. Those are the ones that we want to hear. And I think you had somebody speak at the event last night, correct?
Yes.
Share that story.
Lotus came to us about 3 years ago. At first, she wanted to give back to the community. She wanted to give back to my sister's house to share her story, but she was so humble. She had 2 master's degrees from her country. She came in and she was sponsored by her husband here in the United States. And she says that in the beginning, the marriage was fine. Then slowly he started to isolate her from her family, slowly taking things away from her, taking her ability to communicate with family and friends, such as having a cell phone, and starting to basically control her in every way possible, through threatening to deport her, threatening to take away her money, not allowing her to get an education, even telling her that she can no longer practice her religion and going with his religion. And so I think it took her many, many years and to realize that she didn't want to live like that. So she ended up calling the police one night, and it was the police officer who told her about my sister's house. And so she's been very thankful for the services that she received from us. She's studying very hard. I think the day of the gala, she was finishing up her chemistry final. She's studying to be a nurse. And she didn't feel that she had a voice prior to coming to my sister's house. And she's been kind of quiet the last few years. But at last night's gala, I was so proud of her because there were seconds or moments where she was like, I'm doing this.
Yes,
and she was
like raising her
hand.
I love it.
The crowd just loved it.
Yeah. And
It's quite a transformation.
She was motivated.
She was
very
motivated, and she felt so empowered that
Yes.
she really exerted the power that she felt within her. And she showed that to the crowd. And we were so proud of her.
So we told her last night that she was a beautiful blossoming flower, and she really soaked that in yesterday. I think she felt the love in that room yesterday.
And did you say her name was Lotus?
She goes
came
by
up with
Lotus.
that herself.
She goes by
There's the
Lotus.
flower.
Yes, exactly.
Well, good for her. Good for you guys. That's a great example for the community to see all those 300 people, some of those new people to the organization. They get to experience that transformation of somebody who's gone through the program and the benefits and the services you provide. Tell us a little bit about how the organization is funded.
Majority of our funding comes from government supports, whether that be state or federal. Then we have a generous community that donates to us where we can use that funding for unrestricted, activities. So our government contracts come from state COES. We have 3 federal grants contract that unfortunately comes from the same pot of money, which is on the administration chopping block.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's majority contracts. We do have some one-time private foundation. Support as well too, but some of the source of those funding lead back to government.
Right.
Yeah. And then we do fundraising ourselves, like the gala event last night.
Mm-hmm.
So through the support of the community and different group, different organization, we are able to really expand our services or sustain what we have and then hopefully grow it based on the needs of the client.
How big is the budget? What sort of budget are you working with?
About $2 million.
Okay, so it's a good-sized organization.
Yes, it is.
That's a fair amount of money.
That's a big size, and we serve a lot of people. If you think about it, we have a very small staff.
I was going to ask how many people are employed.
We have right now 18 part-time and full-time, and
half of that is part-time.
But the budget, part of that budget, I would say about 15% of that budget go directly to clients. So it's direct client support. So it's not part of something that it becomes we do have some operation part of it, but majority of it goes to pay rent for the clients.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it's a little bit higher, but
it passes through. It doesn't really come into the organization.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a minute to think big. This is the fun part of the conversation where you step back and you look at the organization and somebody says, Christine, I've got a blank check for you. Tell me what you would do with it if I gave it to you. And Nguyen's going, darn, they never offered me the blank check when I was running everything.
Say something.
I had to save money is what you were saying.
Right.
She gets to spend money. I would say that I would definitely build a bigger shelter. In this kind of work, you don't want to be proud about the large volume of clients you serve. That means that there's a big problem. I want to be able to say, with this amount of money, I was able to really spend quality time serving each person that walks through that door, and they can heal, take as much time as they want to. They can go through as many therapy sessions as they need to, and before they move on to the next step, because I feel like oftentimes we are pressure to get one client in, one client out, so that way we can have a revolving door to serve other clients. We do the best that we can during the time and the budget that we have, but when there's an endless budget, I don't feel the pressure to move you from step 1 to step 2. I want you to lead yourself to step 2, and that you really fully work on your self-discovery, work on getting to a space where you are ready to take that job, and really spend that money on wraparound services that help help our survivors from encountering triggers. We see women get re-triggered quite more often than probably when we would like to admit, where they're back in the cycle. And oftentimes they're back into the cycle and they're homeless. And so when they're at a point when they're homeless, you have so much more barriers to work with. So I would like to have more shelter, bigger hotels, more hotel rooms. So that way, as soon as someone calls me through the helpline saying, hey, I need to get out of here now, that we're able to make that happen within 24 hours, that you are removed.
You say, come on down, we got a place for you.
Yes. And then we'll deal with everything else afterwards. Get yourself to a safe place first. And right now, there's just not that support. At 2 a.m., a person answering the helpline, taking this call, and they have children with them, it's really hard. It's unsettling to staff, to volunteers who take that call, because they don't know what's happening to that person the next day because we weren't able to shelter them. So I would definitely put all the money in shelter, and then in all the other support services that we currently have, which are counseling, legal work, employment work.
What about office spaces?
Oh yeah, that will come automatically with the money.
I was going to say, I had a note on that from before. You guys are sitting on top of each other at the office, if I'm not mistaken.
We don't have a lunchroom. We don't have a conference room.
That's a big shelter. We're going to be. Our office is going to be inside the big shelter building.
With a big conference room for people to meet.
Yes, and privacy and confidentiality, and it's going to be nice and welcoming, with waterfalls and nice background music and possibly a piano and all of that. Because
that's what I want to hear.
I think we are a product of our environment. And when you walk into a space and it's calm and it's quiet, staff are not feeling pressure to meet numbers, fulfill benchmarks, we really can be in the moment with our client. And that's really what I really want to picture, is to have a survivor who has gone through so much hell. I mean, one survivor told me that the reason she called that night was because she did not want her kids to see her dying while her head was in the toilet. Her abuser had actually pushed her head into the toilet, trying to drown her. And she said that despite many years of feeling soulless and dreamless, I did not want to die in that state. So if many of our survivors are coming to us from those types of situation, I want them to walk into a place where they can hold their head high, they can feel that they're worth something, and then that they have our full attention.
And at that point, they feel accepted. And they know that they're in a safe space, which in so many cases, that's very, very beginning, is just put me in a safe space so I know I'm okay.
Right.
My kids are okay. You go by bed nights, I believe, is how they
number
identify.
Of bed nights, correct.
And how many bed nights do you have in a given year?
It depends on what funding we have. But like last year, we provided over 17,000 bed nights.
Which
just
is,
in 1 year.
It's amazing to me.
Yeah, that's a total count of from hotel night to shelter nights. Right. So it's all a combination.
But it's still a huge volume of work that you're doing in accommodating those who need it.
Exactly.
I think the numbers for this year might be a little bit higher because this year we were able to capitalize on all the money, the extra money that we had into hotel nights.
Okay.
So the last 6 months have been really, really busy with sheltering our survivors at neighboring hotels.
And that's a little good news, bad news. The bad news is you having to do it, but the good news is you're able to accommodate more than normal.
Yeah, when that frantic calls came through, as someone who answered the phone, is really heartbreaking, knowing that the person is in whether or not danger or more like an uncompromising situation, and you're not able to put her somewhere safe. With the hotel, it buys us more time in deciding where that, based on the resources that she needs, whether or not, we need a couple more days. We need to check with Lau's family. We need to check with, to see who has the room. But in the meantime, we can rescue her. So that's what hotels are for.
We're out of the dream in the big shelter. What's the greatest need you have today?
I would say the greatest need I have today is probably spacing, because for the agency to do this work. And, yes, I think that the funding is always going to be there.
Meaning as an issue.
As an issue.
Yes.
It's an assumption that all nonprofits are always constantly needing funding.
Mm-hmm.
But before funding, I would say that right now is spacing and staffing. This work is hard. And in order to be successful, you really have to be able to have a consistent workforce who show up every single day, performing at their best, being their best. And that's hard. That's hard to ask in this kind of work because, they're dealing with heavy issues and they might be going through issues themselves as well, too, because we ask our nonprofit workforce to do all of this wonderful work, God's work, but then we pay them very, very little limited because of our funding limitation. So we cannot expect too much without breaking the system somewhat. So being able to really tell staff that, you're safe here, your job is safe here for the next 5 years is impossible. Mm-hmm. You can't. Basically, we build a stronger infrastructure.
Yes.
That will always be the priority for me, regardless how much money I have. Mm-hmm. More money, less money. The more money I have, the less I have to worry about that. But it's always going to be the biggest concern mm-hmm. is spacing and staffing.
Yeah, and that's an ongoing challenge for all of the nonprofits
yes.
to be competitive, mm-hmm. at least competitive.
Yes.
Not necessarily the best pay, but to be competitive so that you can retain your staff after you've trained them, invested in them, and given them a skill set. They've proven themselves. You don't want to lose that.
Exactly, yeah.
Christine, what's the best way for people to find out about the organization? If they're interested, not so much as a constituent or a client, that's a different situation, but if they're interested in learning more about what you do, volunteering, maybe donation, where should you send them?
Well, they can definitely email us at info@my-sisters with an S -house.org. So that's by email. They can also feel free to give us a call at 916-930-0626. That's our office line Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30. The email is actually a great way to contact us. We'll have someone probably respond within 24 to 48 hours on the inquiry.
Good. And we'll put that in the show notes, too, so that they don't have to memorize it. They're driving and listening to the conversation. Mm-hmm. So, Nguyen, your time is now up. You've trained your replacement. You've at least identified and worked with her for almost a year.
Right.
What happens? What are you going to do now with all that free time?
Well, I am looking forward to it. I'm getting very excited, actually. So as of June 1st, Christine will take over. And so it's been a while since I had any vacation long, not so much long, but, really a vacation where I don't have to think about work. Even you're off 1 day or 2 days the way that we do right now, it doesn't stop there. You keep on thinking, responding to email, or planning for the next event or next strategy. So taking a vacation is what I'm going to do.
And I hear you're going someplace.
Yes, we're going to China in 2 days. So I'm really looking forward to that. 15 days, we're going with the delegation from Sister City, going to Jinan in China with some elected officials. So we're going to be treated very nicely there. I'm looking forward to that.
And Christine, is there anything more that we need to add? I mean, this is your show.
My goodness, Jeff, thank you. I feel so honored and so humbled that I'm actually probably overwhelmed with emotions right now, thinking about it. That, but at the same time, I'm a realistic as well, too. I know that there's going to be a lot of work ahead of me. But I invite my nonprofit colleagues to really join me in this effort. Please call me up, get to know me, collaborate with me. I'm really interested in really doing things that meets the needs of the community and not necessarily my needs. I think I'm taking on this role as a passion project, and and something that I really wanted to make an impact, a personal impact on the community, on the lives that I touch every single day, whether that be a staff person or a clientele, So I'm just really open right now to brainstorming ideas, and I'm really excited and feel very motivated, inspired by all the people that I've met last night and throughout the last 10 months that I've been at my sister's house and going to many events. It's like, let's talk, let's chat, and I love that, having this network of like-minded people to bounce ideas off is something I'm really excited to start doing.
Good. Well, we're looking forward to that as well. Thank you both so much for coming. My sister's house is iconic in the service that you guys have been providing for our neighborhoods 24 years now, especially primarily in the South and for the Southeast Asian communities. 17,000 total bed nights per year is an incredible number of women and children that you serve. Nguyen, for your service during a changing time, thank you so much for what you've done. It's simply remarkable. And knowing you were grooming the next executive director for the organization, that's a rare opportunity that most people don't get to do. And Christine, welcome to the new role. Congratulations to you both on getting the organization where it is today and for what you continue to do with an incredible team of 18 full and part-time people. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you so much,
for
Jeff,
having
us
us and giving us the opportunity to highlight.
See, we were so like-minded. We're in sync. We're saying the same thing at the same time.
Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach me at jeff@hearmenowstudio.com. If you have a need for the services or products our sponsors offer, please reach out to them. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSC, marketing, advertising, and public relations, creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is a production of, is recorded at, and edited by Hear Me Now Studio.